picks. Right now, the Ravens only have 5. That first rounder at 22nd overall, none in the second, and 1 in rounds each 3 through 6. Reporting for Sports Unlimited in Owings Mills, I'm Morgan Adsit.
And the next weather maker moving in, but should be to our south by Friday as we head into the weekend forecast in detail, and should stay there. Now, it doesn't mean we won't have some extra clouds for the Orioles home opener, but I think it's cooler and a quieter day. And look at how close that rain gets into Saturday, but then boom, it's out of here later Saturday into Sunday, just in time for Easter. So taking a look at your weekend forecast again for that the Orioles home opener. Temperatures close to 60 with a little bit of clearing during the afternoon, maybe an early sprinkle, 57 clouds and some sun Saturday. Gorgeous for Easter.
Coming up on Fox 45 News at 6, a 15-year-old is arrested for a mass shooting that left a local boxer dead. New developments in that case. A group of survivors says the release is long overdue. Reaction tonight to an attorney general's report identifying more than 100 abusers in the Archdiocese of Baltimore.
This is a huge step. This is an affirming step. This is inspirational to us, but it's not the end.
A disturbing report outlining decades of child abuse at the hands of Baltimore's Archdiocese. Why victims say the fight isn't over and how state lawmakers are stepping in. A teen charged in a deadly mass shooting claiming the life of a Baltimore boxer. Fox 45 News presses Mayor Scott on a recent surge of violence in the city.
And the next weather maker moving in with the potential of rain and storms. Weather alert day for tomorrow. I'm breaking down the timing in my Weather Authority forecast.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 6.
And good evening, everybody. I'm Mary Bubala. We begin with new developments in the child sex abuse investigation into the Baltimore Archdiocese. More than 100 new abusers are identified in this report, which dates back to the 1940s. It is one step closer to closure for victims, but their fight is far from over.
The stress, the constant stress, the anxiety, and sleepless nights.
I'm feeling very, very sad, because who in hell would want to be excited about this horrible stuff that's going to be in these papers?
Fox 45's Maxine Stryker has been poring over the report and why it took so long to be released.
The report is a lot to get through, 456 pages to be exact, and most of them very difficult to read. More than 100 clergy members mentioned and hundreds more victims, and perhaps the most scathing thing is the lengths that the Archdiocese went to cover up this scandal.
Today, certainly in Maryland, is a day of reckoning and a day of accounting.
The Maryland Attorney General's office launched a grand jury investigation into the Archdiocese of Baltimore in 2018, examining criminal allegations of child sexual abuse by clergy. Today, 5 years later, that report was finally released.
The incontrovertible history uncovered by this investigation is one of pervasive, pernicious, and persistent abuse by priests and other Archdiocese personnel.
Attorney General Anthony Brown says they received documents dating back to the 1940s that uncovered a long and sordid history of abuse.
What was consistent throughout the stories was the absolute authority and power these abusive priests and the church leadership held over survivors, their families, and their communities.
The report details 156 abusers and over 600 child victims. It says abusers often singled out children who were isolated and vulnerable and preyed upon them, telling their victims the abuse was God's will, and no one would doubt the word of a priest.
It's also a history of repeated cover-up of that abuse by the Catholic Church hierarchy.
Most shocking may be the history of repeated dismissal by the Catholic Church hierarchy dating back decades. According to the report, the abuse was only possible because of the complicity of those charged with leading the church, who focused not on protecting victims or stopping abuse, but rather on ensuring at all costs the abuse be kept hidden. In 1968, the report says Cardinal Sheehan was told by a father that parish priest Albert Julian was sexually abusing his daughter. Julian even admitted to the abuse and confessed to uncontrollable attraction to young girls and yielding to temptation, but the abuse never reported. The Archdiocese instead got him psychiatric treatment and reassigned him to other parish work. And in 1987, the Archdiocese learned that Brother Thomas Roshowitz had sexually abused a 14-year-old girl. The church's response was to tell the victim he would get therapy and be reassigned away from children. But there's no indication that ever happened. And during the next 7 years, 9 women reported he abused them at St. Michael Church in Baltimore. The stories of cover-up by church leaders go on and on. And according to the report, in rare cases when sexual abuse was prosecuted, the judicial system and the press colluded with the church to avoid transparency and accountability. Unfortunately, most of the abusers are dead or no longer subject to prosecution, according to Brown, so it may be too late for criminal justice.
We hope that exposing the Archdiocese's transgressions to the fullest extent possible will bring some measure of accountability and perhaps encourage others to come forward.
The Archdiocese of Baltimore, Archbishop William Lori, posting a lengthy statement to their website today, apologizing to the victims and detailing changes that they have made when it comes to ending sexual abuse. But it's also important to note, while the Archdiocese of Baltimore did not oppose the release of this report, it's been reported that they paid the legal fees for a group seeking to seal the proceedings of this report. In Baltimore, Maxine Stryker.
Well, both chambers of the Maryland State House now passing legislation to protect victims of child abuse. Under current law, survivors can pursue lawsuits until they're just 38 years old or within 3 years of their abuser's conviction in criminal court. This bill eliminates the statute of limitations on civil lawsuits, so anyone can file at any age. It now heads to the governor's desk.
We will have a bill that will provide justice to survivors that we have been working for 2 decades to get. And guess who the only institution has been fighting that legislation over the last 2 decades? It is the Catholic Church, and only the Catholic Church that has been fighting that.
Fox 45's Jeff Abel is continuing to follow this story for us tonight. He will dig into the Child Victims Act and have more reaction from victims in the Archdiocese on the news at 10.
Fox 45 News is learning a 15-year-old boy has been arrested in connection to a deadly mass shooting March 23rd in West Baltimore. Police believe that teen shot 6 people, killing local featherweight boxer Ernest Hall. Hall's funeral will be this Friday at noon. Police are still working to learn a motive in this case. The teen faces 1 first-degree murder charge and 5 attempted murder charges. Mary?
Kai, thank you. Well, April is off to a violent start in Baltimore. 5 people killed in the first 5 days. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost pressing Mayor Scott on preventing a crime spike, a potential one, from becoming a trend.
The mayor says the city will continue to utilize other agencies like Monzi and other law enforcement to help get a handle on the violence. The mayor's also pushing lawmakers to do more in Annapolis, but we pushed him on why he's not calling for that work to happen even quicker. Overnight, a 15-year-old hit by a stray bullet coming through her window, adding to the growing list of non-fatal shootings in the city. Homicides and non-fatals are down when looking at this time last year, but when diving deeper into the data, 26 people were killed in Baltimore this January. That's 10 less than January 2022. But in 2021, 27 people were killed, nearly the same number of victims of violence as this year. And now more and more young people finding themselves in the crossfire. Mayor Brandon Scott says he's focusing on giving them options.
We're going to make sure that we have activities for our young people.
And utilizing the community violence intervention ecosystem like Safe Streets and the group violence reduction strategy to curb the surge in bloodshed. So is the CVI the city's summer crime strategy?
No, the crime strategy, again, every year, Mackenzie, we have these discussions. The strategy is always the strategy.
Mayor Scott not really saying more.
We're never going to talk about that publicly because people that commit crimes in Baltimore watch the news as well, but know that the partnership that we have between myself, State's Attorney Ivan Bates, with our Attorney General Anthony Brown, with our U.S. Attorney Eric Brown, with the Police Commissioner, with our Governor, we're going to work each and every day.
When you talk about that partnership with Ivan Bates, have you lobbied the lawmakers in Annapolis to get his legislation passed as one bill that he's been pushing for?
Well, we know that everyone knows that I support the bill, right? You were the first person to hear me say that directly.
The mayor says he has his own priority for lawmakers in Annapolis, targeting notification for parole and probation violators.
We have our own bill that we think will help us reduce violence in Baltimore.
Why not use your position to call that out then?
Well, we have. That's what we do in Annapolis. If you go and see, you can look at the testimony.
5 days left. Are you going to hold a news conference to push for this?
We're going to do everything, right? We're going to talk directly with those legislators, right? And if you do a story, Mackenzie, maybe we'll get more citizens involved in that as well as we have already.
Well, let me know when you hold a news conference. We'll be there. The mayor moving on to his next thing while the crime problem persists outside the walls of City Hall. And the mayor is running out of time to push for what he says could help save lives in the halls of the State House. The bill backed by State's Attorney Ivan Bates has yet to pass both chambers. The lawmakers in Annapolis will work right up until midnight on Monday. In the newsroom, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Well, marking 100 days since City State's Attorney Ivan Bates took office, on Thursday, April 13th at 7, Mackenzie will host a town hall with Mr. Bates to talk about this milestone. We invite you to join us at the new Metropolitan Baptist Church at 501 McCullough Street, or you can watch the town hall live on foxbaltimore.com. Frederick County Sheriff Charles Jenkins has been indicted in a scheme to illegally obtain machine guns. A federal grand jury is charging Jenkins and gun dealer Robert Kropp in the scheme. The indictment alleges that between August of 2015 and last May, the 2 men falsified documents from the sheriff's office requesting restricted machine guns to be given to the department. Instead of going to the department, though, the guns would be given to Kropp so they could be rented out to customers at his firearm business. A police spokesperson reading a statement on Jenkins' behalf this afternoon.
At the advice of my attorney and out of respect for the justice process, I am not providing any comment at this time. I will continue to serve as your sheriff as this process plays out and fully expect my deputies, correctional officers, and staff to remain the true professionals that they are.
Again, Jenkins did not speak for himself today, but through the department representative, he said he has been fully cooperative with the DOJ investigation and was not expecting this indictment. Well, O's fans will have to wait for the home opener against the Yankees. The threat of severe weather tomorrow, pushing the game back to Friday. Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers tracking our next weather maker. It'll be a mess around here tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, it's going to be messy if we were playing baseball. So thankfully, yes, the O's organization saying, let's just not mess around with this and move this on into Friday. And take a look. All of these little dots, those are all damage reports. Some of the tornado symbols that you see here, some wind as well as hail. There's plenty of it as this storm line continues to come through. And in fact, there's a severe thunderstorm watch across portions of Ohio and almost now into western PA. This big line is moving east, and it gives us a marginal level 1 of 5 risk of severe weather tomorrow. There could be some strong damaging winds, as well as potentially also some large hail. Now, overnight tonight and early tomorrow morning, 11:45 p.m., the leftovers of that line pass through. It should be really just a shadow of its former self, just a stray shower, maybe a rumble potentially. But really, when things get more active is tomorrow. By about lunchtime, you'll see one little lone shower. But then by 2:45, this is the line, starts really building. By about 5 o'clock, you see it here from Baltimore South. If we were playing our game tomorrow, this would be, of course, a big player here having to dodge some of these storms. So that won't be the case as we head into Friday. But we got to get through this first. I'm going to time the thunderstorm line moving through during the afternoon and evening commute. Going to be a mess. That's coming up in my Weather Authority forecast.
Jonathan, thanks. Anytime inclement weather hits, you can have the forecast right at your fingertips. Download the Fox 45 weather app. Just search WBFF in your app store. The Preakness Stakes only 6 weeks away, and the race won't be the only attraction on May 20th. Grammy Award-winning artist Bruno Mars will be headlining this year's lineup at the Preakness Live concert. It is a return trip to Baltimore for Mars, who also performed here in 2011. There are some changes to the schedule. Preakness Live will be after the race on Saturday this year, as opposed to Friday night like it was in 2022. Social media quick to chime in tonight. Logan says the concert is going to be an awesome experience. Deli just wants some tickets. They are on sale, saying it's her half birthday. And Shine asking Bruno Mars if he plans on placing any bets at the race. Probably.
What's next in the case against former President Donald Trump? I'm Christine Frizzell with analysis from legal experts, plus what to expect.
Former President Donald Trump enters a not guilty plea in his criminal indictment, and there is growing debate tonight over the case against him. National correspondent Christine Frizzau explains what could be ahead in the coming weeks.
That show of support Tuesday night for former President Donald Trump matched in part with reaction from legal scholars, calling the case against him weak, politically motivated, and unprecedented.
I challenge you to come up with a single case in the history of the New York DA's office in which a person was indicted for failing to disclose on a corporate form the fact that he paid hush money to cover up an adulterous affair.
The alleged hush money payments and falsifying documents, though, will likely be easy to prove, legal experts say.
The harder one to prove is that he did it for the purpose of violating federal election law. And that, of course, is what converts it from a misdemeanor into a felony.
He and others argue this is where the greatest challenge lies.
And it's a particular challenge legally because, of course, that's not a statute within his jurisdiction.
But District Attorney Alvin Bragg insists he has the evidence to prove his case, which centers around a, quote, catch and kill scheme to suppress negative stories about Donald Trump in order to influence the 2016 presidential election to benefit his electoral prospects.
Why did Donald Trump repeatedly make these false statements? The evidence will show that he did so to cover up crimes relating to the 2016 election.
Some now calling for the case to be moved out of Manhattan. Attorney Alan Dershowitz arguing Alvin Bragg simply carried out a promise he made when running for office to, quote, get Trump, also the title of Dershowitz's book.
Now he's going to have a jury consisting of people who voted for him on the platform of getting Trump. Is that justice?
These questions of justice now loom large as Donald Trump navigates a new legal landscape and a presidential campaign. In Washington, I'm Christine Frizzau.
Our Fox Triplecast this evening showing some hazy skies with a few clouds on the Mile 1 Towns Cam and the Toyota East Inner Harbor Sky Cam as we take a beautiful look at the postponed game, Camden Yards. It looks like as we head into Friday, the weather a lot better for when that game is going to be, when our home opener against the Yankees is going to occur. But until then, latest weather makers moving at us. Throwing some clouds our way this afternoon. Did tie a record high at 84 from back in 2010 here in Baltimore. For now, though, we are watching this line of storms, severe thunderstorm watch from Columbus all the way back into Lexington and Kentucky. Lots of lightning, lots of rain, even some potential of flooding. Aerial flood watch is in effect as well. Then behind all this, there's a cool down and things dry out, and that's our Easter weather that's coming. Till then, though, again, for tomorrow, a marginal level 1 of 5 risk of severe weather. This area in green, large hail, gusty winds after about 2 o'clock through 8 p.m. on our Thursday. So just in time for the afternoon commute. Gonna have some rough weather around here. In Baltimore now on the Toyota East Inner Harbor Sky Cam. Again, taking a look at the hazy Oriole Park at Camden Yards. We've got 78 now, winds out of the southeast at 9 at our dew point there in the 60s. Temperatures all across the board are in the low and mid 80s. Actually an 88 coming in now at Westminster, at Frederick as well. 78 here in Baltimore. A little bit cooler as you work towards the bay in the 70s. That's induced by the cooler bay temperatures. But outside of that, man, 84 for a high here in Baltimore today. We're recorded clocked in 90 at Westminster, 89 at Cumberland, and some low 80s all the way down into the lower Delmarva and southern Maryland as well. There's your cooler air as the storms roll in up into northern portions of the Ohio Valley. There's your cold front, the showers of storms, some of those strong, some of those severe. And overnight tonight, we could even see the leftovers of that line moving in as we're in the 60s to near 70s. So could see a stray shower by the time you wake up tomorrow morning. I think it's primarily rain-free and just kind of warm. And then mid-80s for tomorrow. And then the showers and storms roll in 5 p.m. here in the city to the eastern shore by about 7 across the Bay Bridge. And after about 8, beginning to move east and out. I'm going to let you know how long we're going to hold on to rain and how long the sunshine stays and if it's going to be here for Easter and beyond. My exclusive 10-day forecast.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
Quite the visual contrast in Michigan this morning, with the sunrise in the east and severe thunderstorms moving in from the west. A much more peaceful sunrise all by itself was captured near the Tri-Cities area. Kind of looked like a dream. Around the same time, the nearly full moon was starting to set over the Puget Sound in Washington state. The full moon, known as the pink moon, officially occurs tonight.
For more content like this, follow the National Weather Desk on Twitter.
It is never too late to travel the world, right? And two Texas women are a shining example. Karina Hollingsworth from our St. Clair sister station in Abilene, Texas, has the story as the pair went around the world in 80 days.
Two friends from Abilene prove that age is just a number when it comes to traveling the world. The duo completed their journey to travel around the world in 80 days at the age of 81 on April 1st. Dr. Sandra Hazlip said her best friend did not need much convincing.
About 4 or 5 years ago, in anticipation of turning 80 years old, now Ellie and I had made some trips previously together several years ago. And so in anticipation of getting old, I said, one day, Ellie, wouldn't it be fun to go around the world in 80 days at age 80? Well, Ellie's eyes got about that big around. Woohoo, she says, you know, and so planning starts.
Let's go for it. So we started planning.
After being friends for more than 23 years, the besties couldn't imagine embarking on this trip with anyone else.
No. That's a no. I can't think of any person else that I could travel 80 days with.
But in true bestie fashion, Dr. Sandra Hazlip had one complaint.
So the only problem we ever have is Ellie's legs are longer than mine, and when we're trying to walk, I cannot stay up with her.
Yes, that is true. I'm always looking over my shoulder. Well, where is she? Then I can stop and rest because I have to wait for her to catch up.
After finally making it back home to the big country, the two agreed on their favorite part of the trip.
Ellie has made the statement before. We love the scenery. We love the all of the